also.
Hello and sorry. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. Sorry for the technical issues for you guys joining. We're changing our software, so it's a little bit different. We have a full house today. I'm your host Ashwin. Varun's in Singapore. DJ's in London. Guys, let me just first ask: why do we all somehow get together to mourn and not get together when it's time to celebrate? Like, why are we all here after the World Test Championship loss? Varun, what is this? What is happening?
I don't know. It's like it's just bad luck. It's too much hype, and then it's such a bad fall. But yeah, actually, I don't know why three of us are always here. It's just I think it's the hype of that particular game. It's yeah, it's really funny. Like I was thinking we should just re-release an episode because of the amount of times we have got together after India has lost a final or semi-final. So yeah, guys, I mean, we could log off and you could just go listen to
Yeah.
something from 6 months or 2 years ago because I don't know how much new information we are all going to be able to give or get in this particular episode. It just feels like the same story.
DJ, let's do the quick math. We've been running this show for what, 5 years now, and so how many ICC finals or semifinals have we lost? You're the records guy, so I'm going to ask you that one.
So
How
we
many?
started in 2018. We
Yeah.
lost the 2019 World Cup, which I think hurt us pretty bad. That one was pretty bad. We then lost the 2020 T20 World Cup, which was held in
That,
2021.
that's hard to say.
Yeah, it wasn't 2020 in 2020. We lost the 2021 World Test Championship final. We also lost the 2021 T20 World Cup, which no, sorry, the 2022 T20 World Cup.
Yeah.
Sorry. And now we've lost the World Test Championship final 2023. We keep making these knockouts, but same old, man. I mean, we haven't won an ICC trophy since the podcast started, so maybe we should just shut shop. Maybe it's us.
Yeah, maybe it is us, and anyway. That's the joy of being a superstitious Indian cricket fan, guys. For those of you listening, it's been a day and a half or so. I think we've had some time to reflect, so we're just gonna spend some time going into the match, into what happened, and where we misstepped, and then we'll spend the second half a little bit on where do we go from here, right? So Varun, let me start with you then, right? Matches at the Oval. We will come later to talk a little bit about preparation and all the discussion about IPL not giving enough prep time and one match not being enough, etc. But let me start with team selection, right? So DJ was out there on Twitter. There was a lot of discussion on what should the final 11 be, right? I'm not going to ask you to belabor the call it 8 guys that we knew were going to play really: Rohit, Shubman, Pujara, Kohli, Jadeja 6, and then Shami Siraj, right? So that those were kind of fixed. Talk to me about Rahane at 5, Bharat as your keeper, and then Umesh and Shardul rounding out your 4 bowlers instead of call it an Ashwin.
Yeah, so I was actually okay with the Bharat selection. I think I was on the same page as Varun actually in the last episode. I was okay with the Bharat selection. He's a better keeper than Kishan. It's really odd giving someone a debut at the end of a 2 year cycle, right? It's a little bit unfair as well. Kishan is probably more like for like than Pant, but Pant had a lot of Test cricket behind him before he played the even the first World Test Championship final in 21 because he'd made his debut when Varuna were there in Trent Bridge in 2018, right? So he'd had 3 years leading up to this. So you can't expect Kishan to come in. So I was okay with that. Bharat was fine with me. Jinx, we didn't really have a choice, did we? I mean, unless there was an injury, Sky couldn't have come in because he was a reserve. Yashasvi was a reserve. So he couldn't have actually made it in. You didn't really have any batters left. Iyer was injured. So Jinx kind of made it back in which made it the same top 5 as we played in 2021,
And let
which
me
I think
pause you
Varun
there,
pointed out.
DJ. Let me ask.
Yeah.
Let me ask about Ajinkya Rahane. Varun, you've kind of said it's time to look past him. I think we've all said it's time to look past Pujara, Rahane, etc. What was your feeling
Purane.
going in? Like, is it a Purane? Is it a hey, this was forced, so we did it? Is it hey, his IPL form gets credit? Hey, he's overseas, he's still the right pick. Where were you at when Rahane's selection got announced?
When it got announced, I think he had hit 79 of 10 balls or something ridiculous like that, right? So when it was announced, we were all very happy. In hindsight, and like, I mean, I was the one who was very vocal saying, I'm done with Rahane. I think for this one-off test match, it was the right call. I was very happy with him coming back. I was happy to see him do well. And there's no two questions about the experience, the overseas experience, his ability to rotate the strike, accelerate when needed, even in a test game, and the confidence coming out of playing under Dhoni and CSK. So, absolutely the right decision for this one-off test.
And then let me stay with you before I go back to DJ on the bowlers, right? Varun, Umesh and Shardul as your two quicks instead of one of them plus Ashwin. Just talk to me about that, man. We've spent so much time over the years about a team should play to their strength versus play to the pitch. I mean, there was so many joke tweets almost the morning of like, gosh, if teams picked their 11 leaving out the number one bowler in the world, the highest wicket taker for India in this 11, etc., out of because there are some clouds around, and then chose to bowl also the first morning. So we'll come to the toss. Talk to me about that bowling selection.
Yeah, it was very hard to digest. Now, I actually was very convinced the night before that they're not going to take Ashwin. And I don't know if I told you guys, but I told some other friends. I was 100% sure. Okay. To the point where I was getting cocky about it when he didn't get picked. And I was telling people I called it and I told you. And now, let me just be clear. That's not what I wanted. That's what I thought was going to happen. And what ended up, why I thought that is just because we've had a lot of success in England without Ashwin and did very well. And the second is we played that last T20, the WTC championship with Ashwin under Kohli and Shastri, and that didn't work out as well. So I just had this gut feel that I'm not going to do it. And to me, I think everyone was doing this whole Ashwin versus Shardul toss up, but it actually was always an Ashwin versus Umesh toss up. Shardul
Ashwin, Umesh, and Tosha.
and Shardul, it was a toss up.
Shardul and Sami.
so, and so I don't know
Shubman.
what happened, right? I think the way I read it is just they woke up, saw it's cloudy, said Umesh, you're going in, and then 30 minutes later the clouds disappeared.
I mean, the
It was
thing is, there's a billion fans over analyzing this, and there is a chance that what you just said actually happened, which is
it's
this other cloud.
100% that is what has happened. I think the issue was always going to be your Shardul plus Umesh was always going to be a weaker attack than versus Bumrah, and so I think Umesh was brought in to really do the workhorse kind of load, right? Just keep bowling to give Shami and Siraj a break because Shardul is a bit erratic. That's the logic I have. It's not right, but that's the logic that I think went behind it.
Yeah, in hindsight, I think Umesh was 2 for 131 and in the match, and Shardul was 2 for 104. Now he bowled less overs, but I mean, both pretty horrendous performances, unfortunately. But you have to give Shardul credit for the batting. Uh, yeah, DJ, not a lot else to ask about Ashwin, right? I think there's a question on hindsight versus foresight. I think a lot of people tend to Team India fans, like any team's fans, but we're a passionate bunch. We tend to look back and say, how could we not have picked Ashwin like early on in the first morning? And gosh, when you see Nathan Lyon picked up 4 in that final innings, it made it hurt even more. But this felt like one where even with foresight, everybody was saying, play your two spinners. They bowl great in tandem. They either holds down one end. It changes the
5 left-handers,
yeah, and it also
one of
changes the
whom got
nature of
160.
yeah. It changes the nature of your ability, your quicks ability, right? If you have one spinner holding down the end basically the whole day, an end basically the whole day, your quicks are fresher for longer. Do you think that came into play here?
I mean, it was, I think, the Final Word podcast, which is a really good podcast, put it pretty well on day one, saying India's generals were fighting the last battle, right? They were fighting the battle that they fought in 2021. And since they took a policy decision, we're not going to play Ashwin abroad. He's the number one test bowler in the world.
But the generals were different.
Yeah,
The
but I
generals
mean,
were different. What is up with that? We
we'll
should
come to
talk
we'll
about
come to
that.
that. We'll
And
come to that. But I
let's
mean,
just talk
it's
about it now, right? Like it's a different management setup. A Dravid and a Rohit are very different to Kohli and Shastri. Why did you leave Ashwin out?
I mean, Rahul Dravid hasn't won anything outside India.
He
We've lost
hasn't.
more test matches outside India than
But
we've
Varun,
won.
let me pick on your point. Are you saying Dravid and Rohit basically played with the same 10 guys outside of Rohit? Yeah, I mean, of course, we had Ishant and Bumrah, then we had Shardul and Umesh now. But you're saying two new leaders came in and they really didn't change anything. Maybe they changed Shubman.
They haven't changed anything, man. If you think about it, I love Dravid, and there's two ways to look at this. The result is exactly the same as the previous regime. Okay, so you can be very harsh on them, but the result is exactly the same. The challenge, and this, I was having this debate yesterday with a friend, and I was pushing the envelope by saying the result is the same, but that's when he said, you haven't developed the game, you haven't developed new players, you haven't taken forward the fast bowling, you haven't managed injury of players well. Maybe everything is not their responsibility, but generally that makes sense, right? Even though the result is the same.
But also, I mean, it's defensive, right? It's all defensive. It's going in with four seamers and not leaving out Ashwin. It's winning the toss and bowling first. I mean,
Yeah,
if it
DJ,
would have
just
made
talk to me
sense.
about that. Talk to me about winning the toss and fielding. What
Yeah,
was
so
the logic there?
the old adage is win the toss 9 times out of 10 you bat first. The one time you think about it, and then you bat first in a big game. This was, I mean, this gave you shades of 2003 where the coin goes up and Ganguly looks
Ah,
arrogantly at Ricky Ponting and says, "We'll have a bowl." And 360 runs later, India have lost in another ICC trophy. Here, interestingly, we were bowled out for 234 in the last innings. Even in that game, we were bowled out for 234 in the last innings. So, pretty
Wow.
horrifying memories for those of us old enough to remember that. But it's defensive mind. It's a defensive mindset. If you played Ashwin, you would have bowled last on that track. He would have spun the oval of all places in England, maybe with the exception of Southampton, where he played last time, is friendly for spin. It's a place where, as you saw, Nathan Lyon took 4 wickets in the last innings. You've got the world's best spinner, not the world's best spinner, just the world's best bowler, purely on basis of stats. He comes on holiday every year to England to watch Test cricket. Last year he came, didn't play the one-off Test match, sat beside, and we were like, oh, 109 for three, chasing 364. Maybe we should have got or 377 or whatever the hell England chased last time. Maybe we should have had Ashwin. We just don't learn the lessons. And Dravid was a great defensive batsman, but he's a defensive coach, right? And he seems to be oscillating between, oh, we couldn't bowl England out last year, so maybe we'll bat last this time and draw the match if anything else, and then we'll share the trophy. We couldn't bowl South Africa out in South Africa twice in two test matches, even with the likes of Jasprit Bumrah playing with us, and so maybe we'll bat out the last. It was such a defensive and weird move, and it was forecast was for 5 days of bright sunshine with some thunderstorms, which came after the game ended, of
right
course. So that
after
was
the
great.
game ended, right? If we had survived another session, who would know? But
But a great defensive batsman. But what we don't want is a defensive coach,
yeah,
right?
I think
After
we
the highs of Lords and Oval.
for those of our listeners who are also soccer or football fans like I am, like you see it a lot. The best of the best, the legend players don't have the ability to translate into coaching. We just because there aren't that many clubs, etc. You haven't seen it all that much in the sport of cricket. You're starting to see it now. I think Dravid, excuse me, is one we have tremendous respect for as a batsman, but it's getting harder and harder to value him as a coach. But let me come back to you and talk about that Aussie first innings, though, right? All the criticism of the toss, all the criticism, and 22 balls in as Australia is 2 for 1, as Khwaja goes to a beauty from Siraj. We're thinking this was probably not too shabby, right? So not a bad start with the ball, and then of course it went south. So do you want to just walk me through that first innings really quickly? And then my simple question to you is that where we lost the game?
Yeah, I do think so, man. That as you analyze this game, you kind of feel like, you know, one of Smith or Labuschagne was going to get a big score, and that I think was just par. Like that, I would have expected. It's the Travis Head innings that just changed the game, and we spoke about this in 2018 when we first started this podcast. We've talked about it many times since. Somebody who can come in and score at a run a ball in a test match is going to determine the result of that test match. 163 of 174 balls in a situation where your top order, the top three guys didn't really get going. Like Warner got some runs, but I don't know, somehow didn't look that great to me. And when Travis Head came in, it just changed the game. It took the pressure of Steve Smith. It allowed him to settle in. The runs were flowing freely. And honestly, for about 2 to 3 hours on day one, I mean, I just couldn't watch it. Like it just looked too easy for Australia. And and I think that is where we essentially lost the game. So, you did have Smith and Head with centuries. You had Carey and Warner with 40s, and good enough to get to 469. And I think just my gut feel tells me once you hit 469, you're just on the back foot for the next 4 days. Like it's just going to be very hard.
Yeah, let me jump in really quickly with a word about Travis Head, because you couldn't look at, I mean, and remember they dropped him in that first match against us, and it was a shocker, and then he came back, etc., thinking, oh, he can't play in India. But 2021, he played 3 test matches, averaged 62 at a strike rate of 80, almost 87. 2022, he played 10 test matches, averaged 50.4 at a strike rate of almost 81. And this year so far, he's played 5 tests, strike average of 61 nearly, strike rate of nearly 81. So he has been so consistent through this World Test Championship cycle that A, you sit here saying we should have expected the threat a little. B, gosh, we should have had the weapons to go after him. And if he's such a bad player of spin that he got dropped in India, and you have a one of the best bowlers against lefties in the world, it just doesn't add up. But I'm not going to go back to the Ashwin debate. Full credit to Travis Head. Full credit to Australia for getting 469. DJ, I'm going to come to you and ask the opposite question, which is a lot of discussion about did we lose the match in that first innings, and there's a lot of validity to what Varun has said. On the flip side, you sit here and say, in response, 30 for 1, 30 for 2, 50 for 3, 71 for 4. We have seen this story so many times, right? You look back at the big celebrations of Lords and the Gabba, and and you think about the lower order heroics. You think about Pant, and you think about Sundar, and you think about Shardul, and you do not
Shami and
think,
Bumrah at
yeah,
Lords.
and Ash batting with a shoulder guard. You do not really think about, Varun said this straight up. He said, Smith, you bet Smith and one of Smith or Labuschagne is going to score. You do not really say when Team India's top order goes bad that one of Kohli, Pujara, or Rohit is going to score. You just don't say that anymore. So have we really lost this World Test Championship cycle on the back of a top order that has just disappointed us?
So we're runners up, right? Which is a pretty good result. And let's not forget, this is a cycle which did include the win at Lords, the win at the Oval, the win in the first Test match in South Africa. Pretty famous wins. But the guy who scored the runs there, funnily enough, was KL Rahul. He was probably our best batter, top order batter this cycle. And I saw a stat which said we had the worst average amongst the I think top 8 test playing nations for the top 4 batters. It's 33 runs or something per wicket.
Yeah.
And Pakistan's like 48, and Australia is probably, I think, probably the highest. We've had a top 5, top 6 problem for a long time. It was being patched up by the likes of Pant, who scored a magnificent 100. If you remember the last time we played in England, Jadeja scored 100. We are 4 down all the time. There's all the okay. I get it, right? Like, everybody loves watching Kohli. The commentators are just gushing constantly. It's starting to get a little bit irritating because we are Kohli fans, but it's like just watching them, like Hayden and all of these guys, just go nuts about Kohli every time he bats. It's getting a bit extreme. I have to say, and I say that as the biggest Kohli fan, we were vouching for him through his lean patch, right? But they are not good enough. Forget in England, even in Indian conditions, they don't make runs anymore, man. So you can't win test. I mean, I guess what you're going with is they've got 460. Could we get 500? We haven't had a top order like that since about 2015, 2016. And before that, we had a top order when Dravid, Ganguly, Sachin, Lakshman, Sehwag, Gambhir used to play.
Yeah, and Varun, let me ask you this really quick about the top order. I mean, it's funny hearing DJ say Dravid, Ganguly, and you start thinking about who's currently running or who has been running the game in the last little bit. But yeah, thoughts about the top order. Like, my question for you really is the new 15 for 3 in ODIs, 70 for 4 in tests?
Yeah, probably is. It just happened too often. And but the thing is, we've been 70 for 4 even when we've won games. So there is a slight difference. The Man, the thing for me is that I think I had a huge hopes on Shubman Gill just coming out of the form. And when you saw the other side bat, you realize this pitch is not as hard. Now, their line and length is going to be much tougher to play. And they're more used to these sort of conditions than us. But I really thought that Shubman could have got going, right? He got unlucky, not unlucky, he misread a ball completely, which I didn't expect from him. I think my issue is, Rohit has never performed when India needs him. Like he hits 264 against West Indies and Sri Lanka.
Yeah, but we
Yeah,
have a West Indies series coming up, so he's all
Yeah, but
set.
also I'm a Rohit. I'm not the biggest Rohit fan, but I find this narrative quite interesting. He guy got 144 in the T20 2019 World Cup against Pakistan, and everybody's like he's the greatest. But this whole like he doesn't perform. He scored 100 at the Oval the last time we played that in the second innings when we were 99 runs behind. So
yeah,
I
but
this
these are
narrative
not
that's building
knockout.
no.
These are not knockout games, man.
Yeah, but I
You
mean
need, you
you
need, and you can say the same thing about Kohli. I'm not doubting that, but
And DJ,
Rohit
let me try to
Sharma.
just back it up with numbers. Right, in 2022, he averaged 30 in tests, and this year so far he's averaging 37. Is that good enough for a skipper and an opener for you?
it's not. And interestingly, this was his first test match ever outside India. He's only captained in 6 test matches. That's crazy.
Yeah, so but yeah, that's ridiculous. But yes, in a knockout game, he is just not. He
Didn't he
gets
get
overshadowed
140
because
against Bangladesh in the quarterfinal of 2015? I'm just pulling out innings that I
yeah,
remember him
sure, man.
playing.
Like 9 years ago, absolutely, he must have done well against Bangladesh in
Eh,
Australia. Like if
Hey, Bangladesh are
that
a
is
good
your,
team now, dude.
if that
They
now,
nearly beat us last time
but
also.
you're talking about 9 years ago. If you pick your argument, man, like if Bangladesh Australia 2015 is your argument, you have lost this argument.
And I will
Um,
let me just jump in and say, although the new software we're using doesn't allow us to show him on the screen, Rahul Malhotra's chiming in saying have to agree with Varun there. So we're getting some comments that are in agreement with Varun. But
No, so
uh,
it's just Rohit has just not stood up when it matters. Gill, I had high hopes. It was just unfortunate. Pujara is the other one, right? Like I think Rahane was just like a little bit worse than Pujara, and so he was the one who got dropped. Um, Pujara hasn't done anything. Also, I feel in quite a while, and his he's been on the chopping board for a while. It's just that Rahane gave way, which opened up time for him. Now, it's very funny because I've been reading memes that said he's been preparing for a year for this. Um, and batting opposite Smith. And I don't know, DJ, who was he playing for in the county game?
I think he plays for.
For,
Doesn't he play for Yorkshire?
I don't know. Okay, anyway. But yeah,
He was called Steve in Yorkshire, so maybe he's still playing for
he's
them. I don't
been
know.
in England for a while. He's like settled there and stuff. And
He's like the greatest batter they've ever seen. He scores 100 every game or something.
yeah, and then
But
he
it's
did
second
this.
division. It's not. It's not proper.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a bit of
So
a difference playing Boland, Pat Cummins,
yeah.
yeah, from second
So
division bowlers.
yeah.
so
Anyway.
yeah, lots to unpack there. He plays for Sussex, by the way, just to put that on the record. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that,
DJ, we're gonna take a really quick break. We'll come back, talk a little bit about a few more things, the second innings, and then where do we go from here? And then what will India's second innings be as a test team? So stay tuned. We will be right back. Welcome back to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. One of our grief-stricken episodes where yet again we have to dive into why Team India can't seem to lift ICC trophies. You were getting questions in the chat, TJ, about you being a lawyer. So something about the way you posed that Rohit Sharma argument suggests that your law chops are coming into play. But let me pivot really quick before we go to the second innings. And you talked about Rohit Sharma stepping up in big innings, and that's all fair. In the notes you sent me, I'm giving our fans a peek behind the scenes, behind the hood or under the hood, as to how we plan these episodes. You said one of the topics we should cover, and it was worded Rohit captaincy clueless. So now talk to me about that angle of Rohit Sharma as you defend him as the batter.
yeah. So I mean, there's two different things, right? One is he worthy of being the all format captain? Very controversial, I'd say, but I think he deserves a spot as an opener. As a captain, so we're used to watching when India goes abroad, you have a battery of pace bowlers. Fine, he's handicapped by the fact that Bumrah isn't playing and Pant isn't playing. We shouldn't forget that. They've been huge pieces in this cycle. They've been huge contributors in this cycle. I mean, they one of the world's best wicketkeeper batters and one of the world's best bowlers, super fast, whatever. But in that Travis Head and Steve Smith partnership, which I have to say was one of the ugliest partnerships I've ever watched, and had the misfortune of watching. Like there were two crabs batting together almost. It felt like uh, he. had no, like with Kohli, you saw a plan. Even with Rahane in Australia, you saw a plan. They bowled at the stumps, they packed the leg side. There was none of that. They went to the short ball really late. By the time I think his head was in his 90s, and you've just let the game run away from you because captaining in India is one thing. You bring Ashwin, Jadeja, Akshar on, it's like cut, ho gaya, right? Captaining when the sun is out in England and the wicket looks flat to bat, when you don't have Ishant Sharma in your team to bowl dry, when Umesh Yadav is leaking 20 runs in 1.5 overs, you that control that the likes of Kohli brought to the game, and Kohli grew into that. He wasn't the world's best captain, and Rahane sort of inherited that, I think. And I didn't see them involved enough. They weren't helping him enough, I felt as well. But it was like he was completely clueless as to what to do once this partnership happened, and he was just waiting for, I mean, divine intervention, and it came with the Lord taking Travis Head down the leg side, or maybe Siraj got Travis Head down the leg side, and that was a chancy innings. But I mean, it was just pure luck that the partnership broke after whatever 300 runs they put on. So I don't think he's. I mean, it would be worse if he went to Australia, and because you'd have many of those type of days with 200, 300 run partnerships. I don't think he's cut out for this type of captaincy. It's easy to captain in India. I just didn't. I found his captaincy clueless, man. Honestly, there was no plan, and maybe it was I okay. Maybe it wasn't executed properly what the plan was. But then again, you haven't got the personnel, so it goes back to management. And so I didn't find him a great or inspirational leader on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say, Varun. If you have nothing to add, I want to just talk about kind of how we approached that second innings then, right? So after conceding 469, thanks to, and I want to give credit, but we won't spend time talking about it, but Rahane, Jadeja, and of course Shardul heroics with the bat, which we needed that lower order to step up. I think we were within 173. We were deficit was 173, and so you go into that second innings thinking 130, 150. If you can somehow get this team all out, then it's chaseable, right? They obviously ended up making 270 to give them a lead of 443. But talk to me about that, right? 24 for two. And did we just let it slip away? Even we still managed to get Labuschagne and Smith, and it was still 124 for five. You're thinking if you can wrap this up in, 40, 50 more runs, that would be great. And then we did what Australia did, what Sam Curran has done to us, what we've done to oppositions lately. But 66 from Alex Carey and 41 from Stark just took the game away from us, right?
Yeah, the minute that after 124 for 5, that's when we had hope, right? And that's, I think, what our episode is called as well. We had hope, and then Carey and Stark, I mean, they should not be getting runs against us. Like, they made over 100 runs between them. Um, and the game was just taken away there because otherwise, it was like there's a lead of 300, there's a lead of 325, at 375, it's going to stop. And they just got 100 more after that. I just, I couldn't believe it. And the minute this crossed the 375, um, you knew how this was going to go.
So 444 to chase. Rohit and Gill come out, get off to a pretty good start. And at the start of the eighth over, Gill, shouldn't have been streaky, but gets that edge off of a fantastic ball and delivery. Ball goes to, I think it was third slip ish or fourth slip maybe, and Cam Green celebrates a screamer of a catch. DJ, I actually guess we'll come back to the specifics on the catch. So, but talk to me about the reaction from Shubman Gill. He's now been fined 15% of his match fees plus the 100% he's losing for over it. So he's going to be fined 115% of his match fees.
How does
Just
that
talk,
work?
just talk to me about the catch and kind of
I
the
think
reaction.
he's having Maggie for dinner.
He has
So
to take a loan now.
he didn't carry enough cash to London.
Ah, see. Firstly, that reaction from Shubman Gill is absolutely appalling. It is 15 minutes after the day's play. It is in the middle of a test match. And what are you trying to impute by that? That the guy is cheating. I mean, it is appalling. This is also coming from the team that we've watched 2008, and we saw the dignity with which Anil Kumble took that. Right? Going to social media and claiming that he's got a bump ball with like magnifying glasses and face palm. And I mean, 15% is actually, in my view, too little to find Shubman Gill. He should be fined something
And a
like his
demerit
next.
point. Whatever that means, he gets a demerit point.
More than one should be awarded. It's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous reaction by a young player. Obviously disappointed. Yes, fine. But to tweet that 15 minutes after the day's play is just distracting from the whole thing. We've not lost the game because of that. Yes, it was a very crucial moment. The momentum shifted. He was batting really well. I get all of that. But if Dravid does anything, this is what he should be shutting down. And he would have done that as an under 19 coach. And he was Shubman Gill's under 19 coach, actually.
And let me pause there and just ask Varun, do you have the same sort of response? I don't know if I had such a passionate response saying he shouldn't have tweeted. I'm just curious what you're
I
taking.
mean, I didn't have such a passionate response. In fact, I was like, I'm glad he did. He's a young player. He showed what's the maximum that'll happen. He'll lose whatever, like 0.1% of his IPL salary as a part of this. And so I was like that. Then later when I thought about it, I was also like, yeah, you can't do that, man. You just can't do it. It's part of the game. It's just part of the game.
Yeah,
then-
Kohli wasn't tweeting that in Perth, was he? Right, when he got out for 123. I mean, it's...
Kohli has just started posting Insta stories of him, some super philosophical
Yeah,
stuff. Man.
silence is
Just
golden.
all, but the whole. It's
Kohli
all,
Baba.
Because he ate lunch after
mean,
getting
that-
out,
we haven't-
Oh,
which
that
is
was also
probably
ridiculous.
boiled, which was like boiled. It wasn't chole kulche type of a meal. Right? It was boiled veggies. And people are saying, "How could you? Sachin didn't eat for 3 days. You're having boiled veggies and stuff."
Yeah, this is the Rohit fan base, which is going to come and support me, by the way,
so
him being a
toxic,
really
man.
good test player. Wait, MI fan
But
base.
what about Rohit captaincy clueless? Will you make that your new Twitter bio?
So I'll get hate for that.
But anyway, and then TJ, let me come back to you and talk about like kind of the overall, like what Ricky Ponting said, and the overall. Just talk to me about the catch, right? Varun sounds like he has something to say.
Yeah, go on.
No, I'm just saying Ricky
The
Ponting
bump ball,
is
Ricky
like
bump. He's a bump ball specialist.
I mean,
He's the
one,
bump
he
ball
caught
specialist.
it and did that, and he was like, "I'm in control," and he was
and then
like
he went
sliding
and
it
did
all
this to
around
the
the
ump.
floor. And secondly, in the honesty series or something, what is it called? And in 2008,
Is there a
I
fair
think
play award for this one?
no, it was in 2008. Kumble and Ricky Ponting came out and said, "This is an honesty series" or something. I'm missing the right word, and that the captains on the field will take the right calls and stuff like that. And then Michael Clark puts the ball on the ground. Ricky Ponting tells the umpire, "I'm saying it's out."
Yeah.
Like, what happened?
It's that.
You just
Yeah,
got,
it's the one.
your eyesight got better with. I think for Ricky Ponting, it's just his eyesight is just getting better with age. You do hear about it that your power reduces, things get better as you get older, and so Ricky Ponting has just clearly gotten his eyesight has just gotten much better with age.
So the Ponting comments are funny in that sense that he is clearly the bum ball expert, right? In that whole commentators like thing. But so for me, when I saw that catch, right, I thought it was not out. And there's a whole debate around what. So he took the catch above the ground. Okay, fair enough. I'm also okay so long as your hand, which has the ball in it, touches the ground. That's also out. That's also out. But if you look at enough, there's a point at which, and I think we were exchanging messages about it, he literally scoops the ball, which drags it along the ground, and then there's grass flicked up. I'm like, green has grasped the ball. The grass is always greener on the Cameron side. I mean,
that should have been the title of this
Yeah,
episode.
the episode. If we had won,
Yeah,
that should have been the title.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, that ball has touched the ground, and it's irrelevant whether he's caught it above or not. If the ball touches the ground, that ball is grounded. That is the definition of what grounded is, right? So the whole like he's in control, and then he's completed the catch. The catch is not complete until, as Sunny G, our inspiration for Bakwaskar, says that his catch is not complete until you get up.
I mean,
You
even
have to
Herschel
stand up
Gibbs
or threw the
completed
ball
that.
up.
Even
Yeah.
Herschel Gibbs completed the catch,
Yeah.
right?
Had control, yeah.
And there's an excellent analysis by DK. Nice catch, by the way. Ashwin's like,
that
good.
was-
Like,
Did you
touch-
ground?
did
Did
it
you
touch the
ground that?
table?
Did you ground that?
We'll have to go to the third umpire, you guys.
Were you in control of it before it
Full
hit the
control
desk?
at all times.
That
Full
was
control at all
impromptu.
times.
I
We
promise
should
you.
ask Ricky.
For the non-YouTube listeners, Ashwin's mic just felt as DJ's talking about grounding it,
And
and
I
I
grabbed
think
it with two
Ashwin
fingers
managed to
around
grab
it
it before
in
it
the
hit the
middle where
table.
you grasped them.
Can you clip that bit and send it to Ricky? He'll tell you whether it was a bum ball or not.
We'll send it over to all the pundits.
Ridiculous. But anyway, so there's an excellent analysis by DK and Harsha Bhogle on what it constitutes controlling the ball. And they said it's not out haters. I mean, fine. There's a debate. There's a debate. Don't comment on it during the game. Save it for your autobiography in another 20 years. No one will remember it by then, but whatever. And I mean, it's a bad example to be setting, commenting on stuff like this. It's arrogant and it's poor form, really. I mean,
Yeah. So
Yeah,
so
I wanted to ask one DJ. You mentioned DK, guys. Do you remember when we last won a non-bilateral tournament? Was it?
Nidahas.
Yeah, and Nidhas was a freak innings. Okay, so that's why I brought it up because of DK. So okay, there's a freak innings of Nidhas. I think in 2018,
yeah, it was
Asia
the
September-ish.
Cup.
week
We must
before
have
we
won the Asia
started.
Cup.
That is the Asia Cup.
No, that's Nidahas.
No, Nidhas, but no Asia Cup happened that year.
Nahi, Asia Cup last year Sri Lanka
Oh.
won, no?
Yeah,
No, no, but we won another Asia Cup after that, where Rohit was captain. That's when all the Rohit captaincy drama started. That Rohit was a
yeah.
great captain and
So
Kohli should be removed. He
basically,
rested for that.
apart
One sec,
from
sorry,
DK,
but 2018 Asia Cup we won,
India.
which is
T20
yeah,
fine.
tha.
After that, 2022 we lost. So, but your
Hmm.
Varun's point I think stands.
yeah,
Hmm.
basically one freak innings of Nidhas in the
5 years
last
ago.
10 years.
Why,
We should
man?
we should leave it
This
at
is
that.
really
Anyway, I should
sad.
go ahead.
This is.
And Vijay
Anyway.
Shankar almost helped us lose
So,
that, but
so this was
DK.
episode 3 or something. What was that? What was
I
Nidahas? Was
think it
it
was one
episode
or
1?
two, man. It was the
No, no,
first
no.
one, maybe.
This was end of 2018, and we started in March 2018. So it must
No,
have been
No, no,
episode.
Nidahas was early, man. It was like
Nidahas was
Feb
very
March.
early.
Oh, then okay.
And I think we started with Nidahas, by the way. I
Yeah, it
think
was
so.
March
And
6th. March 6th to March 18th was the Nidahas
Oh
one.
oh
wow.
my
Okay,
God.
okay. I
So
got the
we,
time.
so this is the duration of our podcast. That India is
From
not one.
from Nidahas to 2023 World Test Championship, all the losses. All right,
छोड़
guys,
देते हैं यार, बंद कर दें.
seriously,
कुछ
let's
जीत
end the
जाएंगे
pod.
शायद.
Guys, we have
अक्टूबर
about
तक बंद कर देते हैं.
No,
yeah,
you
at
should
least
do it till after November. Tab jeetenge. What's the point of coming back just as the next ICC tournament is on?
We should suspend services.
um,
Ridiculous.
right, guys. We have about 8 or 9 minutes left before we have to wrap. I want to talk a little bit about the future. Varun, I don't really have the heart to run through that second innings, to be honest. Right, we're angry at Gill. We fell what 210 runs short. Gill didn't look on track to make 210. You can't be mad when Kohli, Rahane, Jadeja, Pujara, Rohit, nobody else even gets to 50. Yes, Kohli was 49, so that's the disclaimer. But Kohli gets out. Next 2 balls later in the over, Jadeja gets out, and then the collapse kind of happens. Full credit to Scott Boland, full credit to Nathan Lyon for cleaning up the tail. I don't actually have a lot else to say there because we just fell short. So I want to ask you now, Varun, where does Team India go from here? Right, Dravid is the coach, top four, worst top four average among all the amongst the top 8 teams, and then some of the discussions are three. Should it have been a 3-match series? Was IPL the right prep? Rohit has chosen to focus on the scheduling and the logistics of it instead of the performance by his team. So just unpack some of that for me, please.
So let's quickly talk about Rohit's comments. I mean, I don't disagree with what he said. I don't disagree that doesn't have to be played in June. It doesn't have to be played in England. The IPL is a window that is created and it is only going to get longer. So you know that, but then it's also very hard to plan a tournament where any two of 10 teams could basically make that final. And so how can you tell everybody in the world to now not only keep March, April, and May free, but also keep, let's say, August and September or October and November free? It's just impossible. So I think that part is always going to be hard. I think the one-off match is also always going to be hard. I mean, tomorrow you'll have England in the final in England versus Australia, New Zealand, or South Africa. They're going to have the home advantage in a one-off game. So I kind of agree with his points. And I don't think anyone disagrees, but I don't think that is the reason that we're just losing continuously. I think that's the best way I can put it. I think where we go from here is you're going to have to figure out, like, what is this change gonna, like, what is the change team gonna be now? Like, I think you have to move on from Pujara and Rahane. I think you're gonna have to I mean, those are the two biggest changes I can think of, to be honest. I don't know. DJ, I don't know if you have any thoughts.
It's a bit harsh to drop Rahane because he scored few. He's the only guy who scored
Sure,
any runs in this
yeah.
game.
No,
But
I'm
yeah,
not even.
long
I'm
term,
not talking
And you
about 3 months
West Indies.
later. Like,
The West Indies is
yeah,
in a month. They have a month off, then they go to West Indies. So maybe we're not exactly talking about that, but you're
yeah,
talking about for the
long
next
term. So
cycle.
what? So say we make the World Test Championship final 2025. What does that team need to look like, right, to play it
yeah,
longer? That's what even Rohit was getting at. Um, I think the opening slot, it's Gill is one contender. Whether Rohit will be fit enough, Rohit's just not been fit enough for the longest time. He hasn't played enough Test cricket. He's missed important games. He's just not been fit, and he's not looked fit for a long time now. And he manages to make it through 14, 17 games of the IPL every time. He's held together by Scotch tape. It's not good enough. Whether he's the captain or not, I don't know. Um, I mean, there was a discussion around whether Ashwin should take up captaincy, but he must be similar age to Rohit, so I don't think that's the answer either. Plus, we make sure that he doesn't play abroad. So, and we've
Yeah,
got South
both
Africa,
they're both
Australia away this cycle. So,
yeah, they're both 36. I think Rohit's like 4 or 5 months
so then
younger than Ash.
pull the plug, get Gill to captain, make him a 23, 24-year-old captain. He's the only, literally the only contender for this thing at this point.
Rishabh,
अरे injured है यार. Like, so
yeah.
I was speaking to
Abhi
someone
injured
the
hai,
other day.
but
नहीं नहीं,
the
but I was
part
speaking to someone the other day. Him coming back in with a bad knee to get up to that level of fitness to play Test cricket. It's
It's not
tough,
easy. And
man.
apparently, he's not even going to be able to keep for a long time. So
It's
he'd have to
tough.
come in as a specialist batter.
Very hard. So
And
I mean,
it's
27 maybe, but like I just find it. I think Rishabh would be the natural successor in normal circumstances. But he's in not in the best shape. For me, Gill, take the call early, identify him, give it to him at 23, 24. Kohli had it at that age. Let him build his team. Let him build what what he is going to take to 25, 27. Because he's a great, great player. And I think he's going to be the future of Indian Test cricket. Right? So, um, but I mean, I don't have any answers to where we go with this. We probably need a different coach. We need somebody who's more attacking. Gravid is good for under 19, man. Like when you can like discipline the boys and tell them play straight and like get in their head. At this, you need someone to, as I think someone of the comments said, tinker at the edges. You don't need someone who's going to. I mean, what is Dravid's value here? I don't know. Maybe I'm upset because we've lost and I'm just like venting.
and Varun, let me ask you for that. And I'm trying to quickly pull up the stats. I think Kohli was about 25, 26 when he got captaincy. Gill is 23, but Kohli had played, 15. I'm trying to do this math very quickly. About 20 to 25 test matches, and Gill has played 15 or 16. Like I just don't see Gill today as Kohli in 2014 when he took up captaincy yet. But I don't know what the alternative is either. So let me just quickly ask you that before we have to wrap.
Yeah, no, I agree with you actually. I think Gill is the future captain. I just don't think for the next couple of years. Um, I I think Rohit will probably continue. I think that what they're going to do is they're going to split the white ball and red ball. They'll keep it with Rohit. Whatever you say, he can be a good opener in non-knockout matches. So that's 99% of the time.
And in
And
Ahmedabad.
yeah, and yeah. So I actually think it will be Rohit for another 2 years in tests. I think you're going to see changes like I said, Pujara and Rahane, number three, number five, in the next 2 years. I think there'll be those changes. You don't have to look very far, and nobody's saying go to,
Vihari,
the yeah, that's what I was coming to. You nobody's saying going to Ranji and start like you've got a Vihari, you've got
Yashasvi,
Sarfraz,
Ruturaj,
yeah, you've got a lot of these guys
DDP.
already who have a good game for Test cricket. So you'll have to start getting these guys in, move on from the past. To be honest, I'm okay if you don't make the 2025 final, but yeah, I can DJ also say
No,
something.
no. Sorry. You finish your thought. I just
No, I
want.
was
I have
gonna
a
say I
thought on
don't
the
mind
coach
if
who can
you.
replace the coach.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't mind if you don't make one final because you're gonna lose it anyway. But build the team for the future. And yeah, the next coach DJ, I think it's gonna be after November, the ODI World Cup. I have a feeling it's VVS Lakshman.
MSD,
No, not yet.
MSD,
You need some time.
MSD.
He's still playing cricket, man. What is he
Yeah,
going to coach?
He's still winning IPL.
Yeah, how
Psycho.
does he? He's not ready to coach. Yeah.
yeah, but I think it's gonna be VVS, and I think that's gonna be disaster as well.
Oh no.
So yeah, two tests against the West Indies, three ODIs and five T20s. Just a completely different, complete pivot with a month in between. I guess there's a lot. Excuse me. There's a lot happening, guys. Lots to unpack. DJ, let me just ask you this all important question before we wrap. Right? I've kind of the last few times we've had to unpack a tough loss. It's been a little therapeutic for me. I've walked away feeling okay. This has been this was good. It was a good little session. I think I feel worse. Do you like? Is this something about what is it about this test website? Why do I feel worse right now than before I
So,
started this episode?
and Varun, I think, put it in the last episode. We knew this was coming. This is
Yeah,
a film we've
yeah,
seen before.
yeah.
We've seen the Kohli getting out caught at slip, driving at a ball away from his
I mean,
body.
we were all waiting for that shot. Come on, let's be honest. We were just hoping it doesn't happen. I got up in the morning and prayed and said, don't happen in the first 30 minutes. And it happened on the 31st minute.
So then it's
Genuinely.
your
So it's
fault.
your fault.
Yeah, I should have said not for the first
Thanks.
6 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's all it would have taken.
Yeah, but that's why we knew this was coming. This was not a surprise. Everybody picked Australia as the favorites. They were rested, man. We were cooked. You had Shami who was playing till a week ago in the IPL final, bowling till 1 o'clock at night, or
I
whatever,
mean,
playing till 1 o'clock at.
he hasn't even had time to have his biryani, put his feet up, do anything. It's like
Yeah, but if there
purple
was
caps.
video of him eating biryani, Twitter would have lost its mind clearly, right? So
I mean, they would
But
have, yeah.
maybe he's only getting vada pav because of the captain. Maybe that's the answer.
Maybe
that's
that's
it.
the change
The
that's
dressing
needed.
room has gone vegetarian.
The dressing
Um,
room has gone full veg, pure veg.
right? I don't have a better note on which to end this episode than that one, which is
Like and
probably
subscribe.
yeah. Please hit the like button. Please hit that subscribe button, guys. We've enjoyed bringing you the IPL. We've less so enjoyed bringing you the World Test Championship, but that's not because we hate this podcast. It's because we hate the result that came of it. We have a month off till India plays next, but we will come back to you with some Ashes coverage. The Ashes picks up really soon. Oh, Varun, I wanted to ask you the really important question that I now remember: is the BCCI going to flex their muscle, and the next World Test Championship final going to be played in Ahmedabad with four spinners?
Yeah,
Why is it
everything is
played in
being
England?
played.
Why is it played
Everything
in
is going to be played in Ahmedabad. Everything. Like I feel like
It,
even if you're playing in England in the 2027 World Cup for the final, everything will move to Ahmedabad. I think that's what the future is. But
You
by
heard
the
it
way,
here first.
Brian Lara did say that played in March in Barbados. He said it's a dream
oh,
destination. You can
nice.
come, play the match, and live the good island life. So Brian
Dude,
Lara
if
just put it out there.
that happens, the three of us should 100% go. If somebody wants to sponsor our travel and let us go do an episode from the ground in the West Indies, we would be happy to anytime.
Yeah, we're
Thank
also
you all.
being meeting in person in the next
Yeah.
month.
Next month, actually, it's going to be great. So that'll be a good time. We'll see if we can do something, maybe not a full episode, but a YouTube short or something, do it live. But
Yeah, come down to Nashville, guys.
that's it. If you're in that area, we'd love to see you. That brings us to a wrap. Thank you very very much for listening. It was a tough episode to record, probably tough to listen to, but important. Thank you all. As always, we're at One Tip One Hand on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc. You can like and subscribe on YouTube. You can email us, contact at onetiponehand.com. As always, we'll be back next week to talk a little bit about the Ashes and set up the little bit of a break that India has before going to the West Indies. Before we realize it, it's going to be World Cup season yet again. This has been the Edges and Sledges Cricket